Welcome to Tech Observers. Sony, Nintendo, Microsoft, Google, Amazon, Walmart, Verizon, Electronic Arts, and Nvidia. Each of these companies are giants in their respective fields, and every single one of them is or is said to be testing tech that could change the way video games are played, distributed, and sold. Some companies have announced this publicly, like Google and Microsoft, while others are quietly experimenting behind closed doors. Now let's discuss what exactly is cloud gaming. Today, you slide a disk into your game console or download a games file onto a drive. Your game only looks as good and only runs as fast as the processors inside your box. With cloud gaming, that box lives in a data center full of servers miles and miles away. You stream games just like you'd stream a YouTube or Netflix video as a series of compressed video frames. Only now, those videos are reacting to your inputs. Every time you press a button for your character to jump, that input gets sent to the remote server, tells the game what you've done, and sends you a new video frame that shows you the result. Multiply it by 30 or 60 frames per second and you've got a video. That does sound difficult. Does any of that actually work? The answer to this question is a definite yes, and not only in the lab. They've been testing early cloud gaming solutions in the US, Europe, and Japan for almost a decade now, and it's only getting easier to play games that don't actually run on a box in front of you. One Verge editor has pledged to beat the notorious difficult game Sekiro Shadows Die Twice using nothing but game streaming services, and he's already halfway through. What is Stadia and how do I explain it? Well, Stadia is Google's new cloud game streaming service launching November, and it's automatically considered one of the front forerunners in the current wave of cloud gaming, well, because it's Google. Essentially, Stadia is like having a game console in the cloud that you can access from any device. Think of it like how Netflix is a DVD player in the cloud. Stadia works in a similar way but for games. At launch, you'll be able to use it on laptops or PCs with a Chrome browser, Pixel 3 and 3a phones, and a Chromecast Ultra dongle that plugs into the HDMI port on the back of your TV. So, by paying a monthly fee, can I get access to a library of Stadia games? The answer is yes, but it's more complicated than that. There are 3 essential ways to get your fix. The first one is pay $9.99 a month for a Stadia Pro subscription that comes with a very limited library, just Destiny 2 to start. The second one is buy Stadia games for full price on top of your $9.99 subscription until 2020, when the subscription is no longer required. The third and last one is sign up for additional subscriptions, sort of like how you can subscribe to HBO through Hulu to get access to a variety of different games. This was supposed to be like Netflix. Why is it so confusing? Well, it only sounds confusing in terms of how the games are delivered to you, not necessarily the library of games you're paying for. Sony's PlayStation Now cloud gaming service is a bit more like Netflix, with a big back catalog of 750 plus PS2, PS3 and PS4 games you can stream for $20 a month or $100 a year, but Sony doesn't put its brand new heavy hitters there. Who else is a frontrunner in cloud gaming, and how are they different from Stadia? xCloud is Microsoft's own gaming streaming service. It's going head to head with Google Stadia and many others. Much like Stadia, it's also a game console in the cloud, and Microsoft is literally sticking Xbox One S consoles in data centers to stream games to your devices rather than rolling out beefy game servers like Google. Microsoft hasn't offered up much information on how you might get xCloud, but it's planning to let you stream games to phones this October in the first public trials. Microsoft is currently using older Xbox One S consoles as the building blocks of its cloud gaming service, but Microsoft maybe doesn't want that lower performance hardware to define how good xCloud games can look and feel. In the long term, Scarlett will form part of the future of Microsoft's xCloud service, presumably replacing those old Xbox One S boards with newer Scarlett boards to support the very latest games that will be available on Microsoft's next generation Xbox console. One of the benefits to subscribing to a cloud service You don't have to pay for a new box every few years to get updated hardware. So, what games will I be able to play on Stadia and xCloud? Google has revealed that at least 30 games will be playable on Stadia when it launches in November, and these include titles like Destiny 2, Baldur's Gate 3, The Division 2, Wolfenstein Youngblood, and Metro Exodus. That's not many to start off with, but as Stadia's popularity grows, so should the list of games. How much will Stadia and xCloud cost, and when can I get them? Google Stadia service is launching in November, and you'll need to pay $130 to be one of the first to access the service. Google is launching its $130 Stadia Founders Edition, which includes its custom Stadia controller, a Chromecast Ultra, and 3 months of premium service. The controller will be sold separately for $69, but you can also use an Xbox or PS4 controller on a phone or PC. Once the 3 months of the Founders Edition service is over, Stadia will be priced at $10 a month for the Stadia Pro service, which will include access to some games and 4K at 60 FPS streaming. Google is also planning to launch a Stadia-based service that's free but limited to 1080p streaming and stereo sound next year. As already said, Microsoft has not yet announced pricing or subscriptions for xCloud, but you will be able to turn your own Xbox One into a free streaming service for your own games later this year. Microsoft is planning public trials of xCloud in October. Now, what if you have already paid for a Microsoft game subscription like Xbox Game Pass? Microsoft's Xbox Game Pass is expected to be part of the big push for its xCloud game streaming service. Game Pass includes more than 100 games for a $9.99 monthly subscription, but they're not streamed to Xbox consoles right now. You have to download them separately. Microsoft just launched Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, and it includes Xbox Game Pass for Xbox and now PC, alongside Xbox Live Gold access for a $14.99 per month subscription. Is this going to be like TV subscription services where I need to subscribe to xCloud, Stadia, PS Now, etc. to get all the games? The answer to this is a sad yes. Content owners and publishers will pick and choose where to place their games, and there's bound to be games that will only be available on select platforms. You can't play a lot of Sony's games unless you own a PlayStation 4, and Microsoft's first-party games are often restricted to Xbox and PC. The same war will play out in game streaming era, and you may find you'll need to subscribe to multiple services to play every game possible. Isn't Apple doing game streaming? Apple is trying its own game subscription services for Macs and iPhones, but these games won't be streamed to devices just yet. Apple's service is very similar to Microsoft's existing Xbox Game Pass subscription, and it will have exclusives that are only available on Apple's devices. So why would you pay for a console in a data center rather than just owning one under your TV? There are a lot of reasons to still own a console. Some of the benefits include you will be able to play games on any screen. Phones, laptops, tablets, TVs, you just name it. Even an old weak laptop or a phone can run the most modern games. You will have the power of a dedicated gaming PC without having to build, buy or carry one around. There will be no waiting for games to download or update, or at least no need for ridiculously fast download speeds. You will be able to try a game as easily as clicking an advertisement just by launching a real playable game in a web browser window. Stadia has specifically promised this. Also, there would be fewer ways for cheaters to prosper since they generally can't mod the game. There would be shorter load times within games depending on the cloud gaming company's server. Some can even have you playing within seconds. As soon as a cloud gaming company upgrades its servers, you get more power too. And last, if anyone builds games specifically for the cloud, they could be more impressive than anything you could run on a single PC or console right now. Now, what's the catch? There are definitely some drawbacks to be aware of with cloud game streaming. The two biggest ones are, how does this work for people without amazing internet infrastructure, and who's going to pay for those beefy servers? Fundamentally, someone's gotta pay for the time you're playing a game on that remote server, and generally, that someone's going to be you. Cloud gaming companies have experimented with full price game purchases, subscription fees, and subsidized time demos. Basically, an ad for a game that is the game, but nobody's hit upon a particularly inexpensive solution quite yet. You'll also need a solid internet connection for cloud gaming, and we're not just talking about download speeds. The big problem is latency, or how long it takes for the remote server to respond to your commands. If you're playing a single player game, then you might not notice this as much, but multiplayer games are more likely to fall victim to any lag between you and the data center streaming your game. This will really depend on things like the path your internet traffic takes to reach the servers and how far those servers are physically located from your house. When latency is bad, cloud games feel practically unplayable, and it's incredibly frustrating if this happens in the middle of, say, a boss fight. Even in today's best case scenarios, cloud games aren't necessarily responsive enough for twitchy games or competitive fighters. Both Microsoft and Google haven't revealed any magic that will combat a lot of these issues, but Google says its Stadia controller will connect directly to servers via your Wi-Fi to help reduce latency. Will these services work on crappy internet connections? Google says a minimum of 30 Mbps is required to play games in 4K at 60 FPS on Stadia, and games running at 1080p will need a 20 Mbps connection. But again, it's also about how long it takes for a round trip between the servers and where you're playing. That's why Google and Microsoft are considered frontrunners in this space. They already have the internet infrastructure in place to make the trip shorter than many of its competitors. The question arises, will this totally destroy your internet data cap? Well, probably yes. 35 Mbps is equal to 15.75 GB per hour, meaning you could burn through 1 TB monthly data cap in under 65 hours of 4K game streaming alone. That may sound like a lot of game time, but play one Final Fantasy and you might not have data left for anything else. Well, haven't we tried all this before? Game streaming has existed for a decade, and Sony acquired early players OnLive and Gaikai to help power its PlayStation Now service, but it never really went away. Nvidia has been testing variants of its GeForce Now streaming service for years, and there are plenty of smaller competitors like Shadow, Vortex, Pasek, and many more. None of these have taken over traditional game consoles just yet, but with big players like Microsoft and Google, and even potentially Amazon getting involved, things could be very different in the future. The whispers of Google, Microsoft, and Amazon getting back into cloud gaming are what spurred big interest in the idea again. They are the three companies with the infrastructure and expertise to deliver cloud and web services to millions around the world, and the idea is now beginning to feel inevitable now that two of these three companies have officially bought in.
Thank you for watching the video. Do subscribe to our channel Tech Observer and click the bell icon for more updates.